What is up? Back with another day of modding the currently very dirty Mark 6 GLI. If you watched some of the previous videos, you'd know that this is a hybrid turbo Mark 6.5 GLI with the Gen 3 E888, the non-MQB version. And with this setup, I am currently maxed out on fueling. There are some, sorry for the darkness here, but there are some differences between the non-MQB Gen 3s and the MQB Gen 3s, and one of the biggest ones being this guy here, our high pressure fuel pump. It is much smaller on the non-MQB Gen 3s, so that is one of the limiting factors. So today, I'm going to be working on installing this guy. This is a high pressure fuel pump off of a 2017 Golf R or GTI. It's really the same one off of both of those. And in order for this setup to work, one of the other things you have to do is you have to swap on the MQB Mark 7 GTI vacuum pump as well. So this one I picked up off FCP Euro, brand new. I didn't want to run the risk of any of them being old. Older Volkswagens have an issue where, especially on the 2.55 cylinders, that gasket for this front plate here actually starts to leak. So I just found it for this piece here. Might as well just get it brand new. Don't run into any issues with that one. Got the bolts, need to change it out. Got the seal for the vacuum pump itself. Got the O-ring for the high pressure fuel pump. And as a bonus here, I will also be installing these. These are the Mark 7 Golf R direct injectors. One of the more popular things to do on these Gen 3 motors is to actually upgrade the low pressure fuel pump and do manifold port injection, which actually some of the European cars come with stock. Let me grab a flashlight. So on our Gen 3 manifolds, you can actually see what looks like little ports for fuel injectors there. And these engines and these ECUs are actually set up to be able to run port injection. So that's one of the most popular fueling upgrade routes for these cars is to do that. But for my setup, I really don't need that much more fueling to max out this hybrid turbo. So I figured if I throw the Mark 7 GTI or Golf R high pressure fuel pump, as well as a set of Golf R injectors, that should be more than enough to get us to keeping this turbo happy. So I'm gonna get started and start ripping this stuff off. All right, so making some progress. Got the intake manifold almost all the way off. I'm waiting on an extension set to get those bolts that are kind of closer to the inside. To get those bolts that are through that port there. I can't quite reach them with my 3/8" drive. In the meantime though, I pulled off the high pressure fuel pump. You can see that there. And then this is a good comparison at the difference between the two. The only concern that I have is the connector is flipped. I already tested and they're the exact same. I mean, this has been done before, so it definitely does work, but I've just yet to see how that wire is going to wrap around and reach that. But I'm going to take the rest of that intake back there off and try to get this vacuum pump pulled off and maybe even swap the new one in the meantime. All right, so next morning, I got kind of out front on the intake manifold and took a lot of just the bolts off and kind of getting myself ready for doing the rest of it today. I ended up getting the intake manifold off. I got the vacuum pump off as well as the high pressure fuel pump last night. I got to the intake valves and taking a look. You can see they are pretty dirty, not horrible. I've seen much worse. So we're gonna be cleaning these up anyways. So not a bad time to do it. They're pretty gunked up in there. I'm also gonna take this fuel rail off, swap out all those injectors, and then I think I might do that before I tackle those valves. I got the car jacked up so I can take the under tray off and rotate the crank pulley. That way I can get the valves to be in their closed position when I go to clean them out. So I was able to get the new vacuum pump installed. It's not bolted down all the way, just kind of in place. Seal is in place. And then I noticed a problem. So these are the bolts off of the old high pressure fuel pump, and they are not going to work for this new one. So I'm going to make a quick run to the dealership, pick up some replacements, and then hopefully we're all good to go. All right, so getting close. I was able to get a lot of the gunk out of the intake valves, and then I also went ahead and swapped over to the Gulf R injectors that we have. So you can see up here, the Mark 7 high pressure fuel pump is on, as well as the Mark 7 vacuum pump. And good to know, you actually can use the exact same cam follower out of the stock vacuum pump. The one thing that is different is these bolts up here. I had to make a quick run to the dealer, pick up some of those, but besides that, it's almost done. So I skipped over a bit. I got the car pieced back together. Kind of a frustrating process. I accidentally bent that fuel line last night when I was taking off the high pressure fuel pump, so I did have to run to Volkswagen to pick up a brand new one. After I got that one, it fit right in. Just some struggles. There's not really a well-documented process on doing it on the intake manifold specific to the Mark 6.5 GLI. There is for the Mark 7 GTI, and this is almost, I'd say 99% there. There's just a few small differences. So if you are looking to figure out how to do that, there's plenty of really good YouTube tutorials out there. I am not the best person to follow. This is just kind of documenting the build process of this Volkswagen. But I think everything's back together. I'm gonna bolt on the belly pan now. I was dropping some bolts and stuff, so it was good to have that off. And then I'm going to plug in the new tune, or flash the new tune on, and we're gonna see how it goes. All right, new tune file has been flashed. I have the intake off just in case I had to get to anything. I didn't want to miss it. I checked, no leaks. Everything seems to be running fine. No check engine lights. Car's burning off all the carbon shit that I cleaned out. Looks like we got it. Oh yeah. I think I'm gonna pick back up again tomorrow, take it out for its first test drive, get some logs for the tuner, and yeah, I'll take a couple videos and we'll see how that process goes. All right, it's the next morning, and I threw the intake back on, checked over everything, checked for any leaks that could have happened overnight. There were a couple new seals in places where oil is and whatnot, so I just wanted to kind of let it sit so I could verify that everything is good. But I think we're good to go, so we're gonna fire it up. I have a tire pressure light, so we're gonna run over to the gas station, check the tire pressure for it, and then if all's good, gotta get a couple logs and then send it off to the tuner. So far it feels exactly like it did before. No, it's not doing anything funky. I have no lights besides my license plate light bulb out, which has been on for a little while. But everything else seems to be happy. I'm looking at the lot, looking at the tablet. Haven't started a log yet. We're just barely coming up to temp, so we're gonna go down to the end of this road and turn around and let it do its thing. It feels really good. So I'm not sure exactly where we left off for the fuel system upgrade on this car. It has been a couple months since the last clip I filmed, which was doing a pull at the same power levels we were making before the fueling upgrades. We ran into a couple issues after we started to really bring up the boost. We were noticing a lot of knock inside of the tune, and what we kind of attributed it to is it is 91, and if I want to be pushing that much power through this car, I need to put a couple gallons of ethanol in. So we ended up doing some more logs, running 2 gallons of ethanol inside of the tank, and pretty consistently the car has been pretty dialed with that setup. One issue that we did run into, we're starting to see some timing pull on upshifts, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense why. Nothing in the logs at least point to anything like knock events or not enough fueling, stuff like that. We're kind of gonna blame that one possibly on the TCU. We think that it might need to be dialed in a little bit further for the power levels that the car is making now. So hopefully soon we're going to get this thing a new transmission tune, and then I'm also hoping to upgrade to map switching. I'd really like to do that because I'd like to run a little bit more ethanol and have kind of like a race tune, if that makes sense, and then a couple other maps just for on the street. But besides that, it is a lot of fun in one gear. It just does suck when you upshift the initial like 3 seconds in the next gear. All the timing is pulled out of it until it slowly starts to ramp it back in. And again, nothing in the logs at all point to anything ECU side that would be causing that. The car's very dirty right now. We got some rain recently, and Arizona is nothing but dirt. So I'm gonna go for a quick drive and then kind of show the car at the power levels that it sits at now. And then once I get back, I am washing this thing finally. So with the fueling upgrades that we did, we are able to kind of get to the max of this turbo. Speaking with the turbo manufacturer, they recommend no more than like 28 PSI is the max that they said they would recommend. So that is what I targeted. I didn't really want to go anywhere past that just because this is my daily driver and I really don't want to sacrifice reliability in any way. I'd hate to have this turbo blow up and then, you know, be stranded. Another thing that we did was we threw on some summer tires. The all seasons that I had, I kind of blew through them pretty quick. They only lasted about a year. You know, it is front wheel drive, and they still are the stock width being 225. Traction in the lower gears, mainly first and second, is almost non-existent. And now that I have done the fueling upgrade, you know, I was initially thinking about doing the manifold port injection. You know, if I was able to completely max out the turbo in a safe way, just with the Golf R injectors and the Mark 7 high pressure fuel pump, I definitely think the manifold port injection would have just been a big investment and not really be that rewarding. I could probably run more ethanol, but I think I can probably target an E40 or E50 tune and get all the benefits of having ethanol on this current setup. And that's probably something I'll talk to the tuner about when we end up going for the map switching and we can dial in the TCU a little bit better. So we'll do a quick little hit in third gear. Show you what traction looks like in second gear. So here's our new trunk strut. And it looks pretty easy to me to replace, but this is what we got going on. Yeah, so that's no good. It's been like that for a little over a year. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing swapped out really quick. Old one is out, and then look at this. This is pretty funny. Yeah, this was doing nothing in there. And now, for the first time in a couple years, I actually have a working trunk strut. Look at that. And just like that, it's all clean, all done. I'm gonna pull it in, gonna vacuum it out, and then, yeah, I think I'm gonna end the video here. You know, it's been some time since my last video, but I'll try to post a little bit more consistent. Should have some modifications and some retuning happening soon, so I can definitely document that whole process and make some pretty cool content out of it. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this one. I'll see you guys in the next one.